Welcome back to News Talk. Starting in childhood, we are taught to use 911 anytime there is an emergency. But a second message, almost as important, isn't getting through as much as it should. That message, only called 911 in an emergency. ABC 7 investigator Chris Pabst and D.C. Fire Emergency Medical Services Chief Gregory Dean are with us to talk more about what is really literally a life and death issue. It's good to have you both here. Chris, you've looked into this. We appreciate your time, Chief. And Chris, when you probed the use and misuse of 911, what did you find? What do the numbers tell us?
Well, sure. Well, this is not just a problem in D.C. This is a problem across the country. Now, it's been made a little bit worse in D.C. because of the issues that we've been talking about over the past couple years with slower response times, equipment that has been breaking down, equipment that there's not enough of, ambulances being one of them. So when we looked into this, we did it from the perspective of, okay, but what impact is this really having on the public safety in the district? And we looked at one entire month of 911 EMS calls, and there's roughly 15,000 of them in May. And we separated those that are considered low priority to those that are considered high priority. And about half of the calls, it's almost exactly 50% of those calls, are calls that are coming in with a low priority status from Unified Communication, the 911 system. So they're taking the call and they're saying, well, this particular call is not necessarily an emergency, it is a lower priority call. But DC Fire and EMS, they are still responding to this call. And by law in the district, that person has to be taken to the hospital unless they refuse being taken to the emergency room. And what's happening is people are using the 911 system as a way to get health care. And they're calling with very minor ailments, a headache, mild allergies. I've heard from firefighters and EMS that people are calling with stubbed toes, and they're getting rides in an ambulance to the ER. And what that's doing is that's taking away those resources when a true emergency comes in, and that's when we get those situations that we've had over the past couple years where people are waiting 20 minutes for an ambulance, or an ambulance doesn't get there at all. Earlier this year, a boy was taken to the hospital in an engine, an actual fire truck, because there was no ambulance to get there because they're out, many of them, on these low-level calls.
Chief, we want to make this segment about the public education. So the floor is yours. What should the public know? What message do you want out there?
Well, I think the message we're trying to make sure everybody understands is that it's important when you call 911 for EMS that you actually have a medical emergency. And currently, as Chris has reported, the definition of medical emergency seems to be lost. We're saying if you're calling 911, you are in a life-threatening situation where you will need our assistance to take care of you. If we can start training people and teaching people and educating people on how that works. And again, he's absolutely right. This is not just a problem in the district. It's a problem across the country, in that we want to make sure we're available for people, but we also are asking the public to remember this. If you call us during a non-life-threatening emergency, we may not be available for those life-threatening ones. And in this case here, just look at your own family members. If someone else is calling and when your family needs it, it places them in a critical situation. So we actually need us to do a better job educating the media to assist us, and for the public to appreciate the fact that calling 911 can pull units away if it's a non-life-threatening emergency.
So a life can be lost, or a medical emergency can grow worse when a unit is not available for a true crisis because the men and women of your department are serving really, I mean, we had a member of the D.C. Council here we had a member of the D.C. Council here not that long ago who said that he's heard of cases where people need a refill on their prescription and they call 911 to have the ambulance take them to the pharmacy or to the hospital pharmacy. I mean, it's like we have to put it out there plain that this is life or death.
Correct. Life-threatening is the word. When you decide to call 911, you have a life-threatening emergency, whether it's fire or whether it's medical emergency.
You're impacting someone else's life, potentially, when you tie up a unit for a routine matter.
It can. Yes, it can.
What about, to what extent is this a resource issue where people are calling 911 because they have a need, it's not the house on fire, it's not the heart attack, but they don't know, or they don't have at their disposal some other way. They don't have cab fare or a friend who will take them, and they know if they call 911, someone will come.
And that's the other half of the story that we have airing tonight at 11 o'clock on ABC7 is this is a community effort. The hospitals are working on it. The district is working on it. The fire department is working on it. They're all working together trying to figure out a way that they can get the health care to the people that need it so that they don't have to call 911 and don't have to tie up those resources. But it's not just a matter of tying up these resources. When these trucks are constantly going out, there's wear and tear. They're getting mileage put on them. You can't take them out of service for regular maintenance because they have to be in service responding to these calls. And the other issue is training. How are the firefighters and the EMS supposed to get off of their regular shifts and train on a regular basis when all the trucks are being utilized to go after these 7,000, 8,000, 8,500 low-level calls that are coming in every month?
And I believe part of your story too, and we may have the soundbite on this ready to go, is the morale piece.
The morale issue.
Can you talk about that briefly, and we'll play the...
Sure. So the president of the D.C. Firefighters Union, the association, is saying that they're going out on all these calls. Now, these are men and women that are trained to save lives. Like, they're trained that when the bell goes off, they get there, they pull you out of a fire, they resuscitate you, they save your life. But on half the calls they're going on, that's not the case, and they say it's wearing down. Here's the bite.
There's a lot of burnout. I mean, I hear it repeatedly from the firefighters that are staffing these ambulances that, not the true emergencies, because we're here for that. We want to save lives. If it's a true emergency, we're all in, but the low-level calls are a drain.
I'm sorry.
Well, keep in mind, these men and women work 24-hour shifts. And these are long shifts that they're responding to these calls over and over.
Chief, your response to Ed Smith there?
Well, there's definitely an impact on what happens. But again, we're professionals. And it's our responsibility to try to reduce the number of low acuity calls so that our men and women are ready and available. But at the same time, we do not know until we get there and evaluate the patient as to what the level of care that patient needs. And so we always have to keep in mind that somebody may call us 5 times, somebody may call us 10 times, but that 10th time may actually be their emergency. So what we say to our men and women is, treat everybody like it's the first time you've seen them and go and see exactly what's going on. The reality is, not only in the district but around the country, is that you only see people once or twice in their whole life. We confuse our frequent callers with the rest of the public, and we should not be doing that. We only see people once or twice when they call 911, and that's why education is a critical piece of this, so that they know why they're calling 911 and they know that it is a life-threatening emergency.
Is 311 a good alternative for people who need help, need assistance, need someone to be there for them with whatever? But it's not a heart attack, it's not a fire, not the house on fire, it's not the sort of emergency we were taught as kids, you pick up the phone, dial 911, but you can get someone. So is 311 it, or what can we tell people?
So currently 311 is not it for public safety, and those are all the subjects that are being discussed as to what's the best way to address this. One of the things that you will see that we've done in the district is we're in the process of implementing a third-party provider, which will take some of the strain off the system to deal with the issues that you heard Chris talk about, which is having time to train our members to make sure they're ready to go, having an opportunity to review our preventative maintenance, make sure it's working, and to also address what you heard Ed talk about, which is the morale of the members.
We only have a minute left. If someone calls in and what they're saying is their need when they call 911 has nothing to do with the emergency situation, what would happen if you said, well, we can't, that's not what 911 is for, that's not what the ambulance is for?
Well, again, the person, it's their emergency, and we're working very closely with the OUC, the 911 Center, to help identify that. But again, until you have eyes on, you're not assured, and we would be back here again if we had people showing up, not showing up, and we had medical emergencies. So there's no quick fix for what we're talking about.
I have 20 seconds left.
Yeah, can I say one? This is not people calling 911 saying they got the wrong order at a fast food restaurant. We've heard all those 911 calls. This is not it. This is people that do have a medical concern, but not one that would be considered an emergency. I mean,
Right.
that is the issue that we're talking about here, and I think that's a pretty important distinction. And the district also very rarely makes people pay for those 911 and ambulance calls.
And the number you gave at the outset, 50%, is certainly eye-popping. We encourage you to watch Chris's story in full tonight at 11 on our sister station, ABC7. Chief, Chris, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Back in a moment.